Poker, a game of skill, strategy, and chance, has existed for centuries, crossing continents, nations, and epochs. Its development is a tapestry made from the threads of history, innovation, and human psychology, depicting the dynamic interplay of tradition and modernity. In this video, we'll take a look on how poker has evolved through time. Poker began in the late 18th century and was likely diffused over the Mississippi River region by 1800. It was played in a variety of ways with 52 cards, including straight poker and stud. 20-card poker was a two-player variant, and it's typical in England to reduce the deck in card games with fewer players. The evolution of poker is tied to the historical process that saw the emergence of commercial gambling. According to English actor Joseph Cowell, the game was played in New Orleans in 1829 with a deck of 20 cards, and the participants wagered on whose hand was the most valuable. An exposure of the arts and miseries of gambling by Jonathan Green detailed how the game traveled throughout the nation on Mississippi riverboats, where it was a popular pastime. During the gold rush, it's believed to have spread north along the Mississippi River and to the west, becoming ingrained in the pioneer spirit of the frontier. The flush was introduced shortly after this spread, and the entire 52-card French deck was employed. Before 1850, when it was first recorded in literature and a manual of games, the draw was added. Numerous additions were introduced during the American Civil War, such as the straight and the 5-card variation of stud poker. Later, American innovations included the wild card in 1875, split pot and low ball poker around 1900, and community card poker around 1925. The final development in this game of poker happened in the early 20th century when the variant game of Texas Hold'em was introduced. During the 19th and even early 20th centuries, draw and stud poker were two of the most played variations of the game. The popularity of the game in the U.S. increased as a result of games played in Mississippi riverboats, mining communities, Old West saloons, and Civil War military encampments. In addition to honing their winning strategies, players also had to keep an eye out for collusion and cheating. Not only did well-known writer Mark Twain participate frequently in those Mississippi games, but he was also concerned about the prevalence of cheating. In those days, before computers and strategy guides turned an Old West rounder from loser to winner, poker was a learn-as-you-go game. But as the game gained popularity, more Americans started to understand its subtleties. In 1862, Twain described the suffering of Native Americans playing cards in a Western tale. He took note of the rules of the game and appeared to be knowledgeable about every nuance of poker. They doubled the pot, dealt again, anteed, and held up their hands after dealing. In addition, phrases like straddling the blind, bluffing, aces full, and the terrible idea of being busted were used. The development of poker in the 19th century is another important component of poker strategy. It's possible that the first iteration, played in New Orleans in the 1820s, had just 4 players and 20 cards. In the ensuing years, new variations appeared swiftly, requiring players to adapt. The 52-card deck prevailed in the ensuing 20 years, and draws started to be used in the 1850s. Astute players started to significantly alter their strategies, depending more on ability and probability than chance. Texas Hold'em's introduction surely contributed to poker's notable 20th century growth. In the 1960s, Hold'em had become the most popular game in Las Vegas, and in 1970, the World Series of Poker was introduced. Compared to the conventional 7-card game, the game was easier. Players were given 2 cards as opposed to 5 or 7. Additionally, community cards led to significant modifications in gameplay and new strategic implications. To outplay their rivals, players such as Doyle Brunson, Johnny Moss, and other pioneering Texas road gamblers had to possess a great deal of skill. As players discovered more cards they could all utilize, the game featured many betting rounds. This modification produced clever and thrilling betting lines, particularly as the no-limit variation gained popularity. The 2000s poker boom only served to increase the game's appeal and spur strategic modifications. They didn't call it Texas Hold'em. At the time, they just called it Hold'em. Early Texas player Crandall Addington said about seeing the game in 1959, as documented in Des Wilson's Ghosts at the Table. "I figured that if it caught on, it would become the game. Draw poker requires only 2 bets, whereas Hold'em requires 4 bets. This meant you could play strategically. This was a thinking man's game." Hold'em has grown in popularity during the past 2 decades. Approaches to the game have evolved and are still changing. What was once the best way to play has become outdated. Players have occasionally returned to outdated strategies. The poker boom is a remarkable era in the game of poker that began in the mid-2000s with the advent of online poker and televised broadcasts of poker tournaments. However, it was Chris Moneymaker's astounding victory in the 2003 World Series of Poker main event that hailed that surge in popularity. Chris Moneymaker entered WSOP through an online satellite tournament, proving that even amateurs can enter the main event and win. His victory became known as the Moneymaker effect, and coupled with the exposure from television broadcasts showing players' hole cards, propelled poker into a mainstream frenzy. Poker was more than simply a pastime for frontiersmen in the Wild West. It was a battle of wits and a true showdown that quickly escalated to one with Colt 45s. Legendary individuals such as Wild Bill Hickok and Doc Holliday were well known for their poker exploits alongside their frontier escapades. Consider the iconic Dead Man's Hand, a pair of black aces and eights that is inextricably linked with Wild Bill Hickok's legend. He is supposed to have been assassinated during a game in 1876 while holding that identical hand. In 1875, wild cards were introduced, adding strategy and unpredictability to the game of poker. Poker's popularity grew during the Wild West, laying the groundwork for the game's long-lasting reputation. The 20th century heralded a golden age of poker that was sure to come. All the necessary indicators were present, including the first poker starters. Take Johnny Moss, a seasoned gambler whose skills at the table became legendary. In a 1949 high-stakes poker match staged by Benny Binion, he faced off against Nick the Greek Dandalos in a prolonged duel that sparked numerous stories. In 1970, Binion's Horseshoe Casino hosted the World Series of Poker, ushering in a new age of competitive poker. In fact, Moss won the inaugural WSOP title. The competition ushered in Texas Hold'em, which has simpler rules but emphasizes the significance of strategy. As a result, the Horseshoe Casino became a hub for all poker enthusiasts, where every shuffle and call became important to the formation of the modern countenance of the game we enjoy today. With the introduction of the first online card rooms in 1997, poker gained access to an almost limitless number of players. The first real money online poker hand was dealt on Planet Poker on January 1, 1998, a site promoted by Mike the Mad Genius of Poker Caro, a well-known poker professional. One after the other, internet poker sites took off. With the widespread adoption of the internet and websites, geographical constraints that had previously limited the game to brick-and-mortar casinos and card rooms were eliminated. The combination of blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin paved the door for a new type of online poker called crypto poker. Poker platforms based on cryptocurrency can now offer rapid and safe transactions with nearly no fees. Furthermore, the anonymity of cryptos allows for less stringent know-your-customer regulations, resulting in improved safety and security for players and their personal data. Popular sites such as Stake.com and Rocket Pot Casino provide provably fair cash Texas Hold'em, Omaha High Low, and 7-card stud games, as well as poker tournaments with varying buy-in formats. In the last 2 centuries, poker has evolved greatly, and it's been made really easy ever since online poker was introduced, due to which many people play poker on their phones, PCs, iPads, sitting in their beds. We hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on bell notifications so you don't miss our videos in the future.